Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Blue Archive set of reactions. Today we have themes 165 and 170. Apparently, this is a sequel and a threequel to Usagi Flap, aka If Hyper Potions Did Music for Splatoon. And that just came out. I've never called it that. But anyway, we're going to be listening to these songs today, and knowing that they're the sequels to that, I'm curious to see where they're going to be in sound. They could be very similar for all I know, but they could be entirely different. So let's find out. Let's go. Oh. I'm already kind of hearing a light similarity. Ooh, ooh. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we vibing immediately. I always do that stupid dance. Ooh. Playing around with that rhythm a smidge. Definitely has a similar vocal style. I think the melody is borrowed, at least in part. Definitely more beachy. I mean, the other one was pretty beachy, but this is way more like... way more beach party. Ooh. Never mind. Now we vibin'. The squeaky toy was unexpected. Oh, this is a very, very tasty halftime there. Ooh, okay. Kind of exploded there with sound. Ooh, kind of blending the stuff. All right. Throw it all into the same exact moment. Sure, let's go for it. And now we're lo-fi. What an interesting way to write that. So that was Usagi Flap, but a lot more exploratory. That one had a lot more going on, a lot more sample usage, even though the first one had plenty of sample usage. This one definitely played with the overall energy in the song, obviously way more. The first one had its high energy pretty much locked in from the beginning. In a way, it feels just like a remix of the first one. It's like it's from a different perspective almost. Like if the first one was the daytime energy, this is the, especially at the end, felt like it was just kind of slowing down, relaxing, like the sun's setting, it's time to chill out and just enjoy life. But there's some chaos happening in between. So I think that's kind of what's the most interesting comparison between those two, at very least. The energy shift in this one being so much more aggressive between sections. Going into that halftime especially caught me off guard pretty well, because especially with how the song started, you don't really expect it to slow down, knowing what the other song before this one kind of came from, and knowing that it's supposed to connect, and then just throwing a thematic shift that aggressively right in the center of this one just kind of makes you go, oh, you know, it wakes you up a little. I don't know how really to process this one. There was enough happening where I'm like, this is cool, I like what it's doing, but hearing the parts of the first one in there is kind of throwing me through a loop, because I didn't think that they were gonna do this with it. And I want to make sure that comes out as like a positive, because being caught off guard is refreshing a lot of the time, especially in songs where you go in having some sort of preconception of what the song should be like. I don't love it when songs are just rehashes of their prior versions. When they evolve like this, it feels much more refreshing, unless that's the point, like the hard arrange songs out of Blue Archive. Those are supposed to be the same song, but with a slightly different energy to them. That is perfectly fine. With this trying to be a whole different song and actually achieving that is just kind of refreshing. It's borrowing, it's sampling, And that's perfectly chill. It's not a copy, and I like that instead of it just being the same song. But as per usual, I'm now more interested to find out what happens in the next song with these. Whenever I group them together like this, I'm always like intrigued by the first one and then really excited by how the next one is going to follow up and what I'm going to be able to notice as similarities between them, if any at all. So let's find out, shall we? Ooh. So nothing alike right off the bat. This is giving Nintendo 64 racing game. Ooh. All right, featuring Sonic the Hedgehog. Do you feel the sunshine? I do. That is such a thin guitar sound. They really just EQ'd that way up in the high end, didn't they? I mean, the drums are up there too. Those are really tight. That snare is really clappy. What are we building to? Okay. I'm sold. Ooh. And back. I really like the dark sound this has in this section. And now we're back to the bright happy. What a shift. There's something cool about this one. I'll get into it. Are those the vocal chops from the prior? I think that might be the sample they're using to connect them. Definitely been processed, though. They're definitely not directly pulled from it. Ooh, it's a little cutoff there at the end, too. Okay. Carrot, I see what you're doing. So completely different. This is what I was saying at the end of the last one. I love it when they do this, where it's like not at all the same song. And this one, even more so than the prior, was a completely unique piece. I'm pretty sure those vocal chops at the end were borrowed from the last two. But again, they had a lot of effects on them. They were changed. They were edited pretty severely in order to make them sound fitting to this track. This whole like high end, this really high cut rock sound was kind of intriguing to me. Like, I joked at the beginning that it sounded like an N64 racing game, which it kind of did, and then it moved into a little bit of Sonic the Hedgehog flair, the early Sonic stuff, Crush 40 in there, but then it being EQ'd so high, so aggressively harsh on those high ends, basically removing all low end from everything. Even that snare that my brain was really latching onto, that snare was like tuned low as a snare, like it was actually pitched pretty low, but it was EQ'd high. So it created this like half clap kind of sound where usually you get a slappy kind of fat snare sound at the low end and there's not really so much crack on the top end. Whereas this snare had all that slappy energy under it, but it was cutting out all of that and just leaving it with this high end stuff that usually that like crack sound would be. But there's no real sound to that because it usually would be pitched much lower if it were EQ'd normally. So I think that's really cool too. The fact that that entire soundscape changes when you affect something like the drums and guitar, pretty much just those were mixed very, very high, very EQ'd in that high half where there's just not any bass. There's no baritone, no mids, all treble. It's just, that's all it was. But I think in doing that, they actually made it sound a little bit more nostalgic than it probably was supposed to. This one sounded nostalgic to me because it reminded me a lot of those older game soundtracks that were very in that early 2000s like butt rock era where everyone was trying to do something cool with the electric guitar and drum combo, like, yeah, let's do something punk and rocky, we're gonna be so cool and hip. And it just never truly worked out, except for in the nostalgia rose tinted glasses that are the hindsight of it all. And this kind of is refreshing in that way, where it sounds like they're trying to do that, but having the foresight to raise up all that EQ to make it sound thinner, like a TV that you'd be playing on it back in the day, where there wasn't big sound bars and everything, and it was just the two crappy speakers built onto the TV that just sounded like this. So I think that might have actually been Carrot just playing with that potentially. I'm not sure if it was fully intended to portray that sort of era of music, but it definitely did, and I love it for that reason. I love it when musicians get a little like thematic and conceptual, and they're like, hey, I want to try doing this, let me mess around a little bit, let him cook. And it comes out with things like this that are surprisingly really fun to listen to and observe and pick apart those details and try figuring out the intentions. I really like that. But I think that's about all I'll say for these two, so thank you all so very much for watching. If you have any other Blue Archive stuff you want me to get to, leave them down in the comments below. I try to focus on the ones that get the most likes, and because Blue Archive music tends to be so short, I try to put multiple in one. So if you have more than one song that relate, kind of like this, leave them both down in the comment and we will see what happens and which ones I get to next. Or if you have any other songs you want me to get to from anime, games, etc., leave them down in the comments and see what people say. Sometimes we get a random huge vote up on something that's completely unrelated, so maybe. But aside from that, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you want to follow me and support me on all that, you know how to do that, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!